For those that don't know me, my name's Stephen Knight. I'm the CEO of Pimento. I'd like to thank you for joining the 4th monthly panel discussion of this year. You'll notice we have a new name, Marketing Spice Live. It's part of a portfolio of content we're sharing across various channels, brand owners, agencies, consultants, and guests right across 22. For those that weren't on previous calls, please use the chat box to ask questions or make any comments or give any feedback. We really want to make this session as interactive as possible, and we will be opening up to questions. So why is now a great time to travel? Well, the first 4 months of 22, soaring sales and bumper bookings as customers take to flights once again. But the war in the Ukraine, rising fuel prices, and a significant drop in disposable income could yet hamper demand. And I don't know how you feel and whether or not you personally are planning as many vacations this year as you would do normally. So how confident are industry bosses feeling about the rest of 2022? And how can we better protect the industry from future crises? Well, today I'm pleased to be joined by 3 leading travel authorities. Katherine Gershon, who's Managing Director of leading travel company Wexas, with responsibility for Wexas Travel, worldwide tailor-made tour operator. Best Served Scandinavia, Scandi tailor-made tour operator. Luxury holiday company, and Wexas Travel Management, which is a corporate travel agent. Prior to Wexas, Katherine was Global Sales and Marketing Director at Abercrombie & Kent, where she held similar positions for British Midland International, and we worked together at Silverjet Airlines. So she's been both airline side, travel operator, brand over the years. She also spent 6 years at Thomas Cook, 3 of which were on the board in the early 2000s, and she started her career as a management consultant. So loads of experience right across the industry. Our second member of the panel today is Brett Norton. He is CEO of Ultimate Travel Club, the first subscription-based online travel operator in the UK. Brett has over 20 years experience in commercial strategy and marketing for travel, leisure, and hospitality businesses in the UK. He's worked for owners and investors, developing growth, existing businesses, and incubating startups. He's worked for the Forte Hotel Group, he's worked for De Vere, IHG, as well as worked with the likes of Saga Travel, Travel Lodge, Celebrity Cruises, Titan Travel, Maybourne Hotels, Travelopia, and many, many more besides. And finally, least but not least, Jae Hopkins, Marketing Director of Explore Worldwide. Explore Worldwide offer small group adventure travel to over 120 countries worldwide. She's previously Sales and Marketing Director at Eurotunnel through both the pandemic and through Brexit. Before that, she increased sales and brand awareness of Exodus Travel, who just so happened to be, perhaps, I guess, the biggest competitor to her current employer. She's also worked in the nightclub and higher education sectors and ran Butlin's biggest ever PR campaign when they opened the Wave Hotel at Bognor Regis. So, as I say, we're very fortunate to have 3 highly experienced individuals with a raft of industry experience across many parts of the different sectors of the hospitality travel sector. So first of all, morning and thanks for joining us. They say you really don't know what you've got until it's gone. Goodness, haven't we missed travel over the last 2 years? New research from the European Travel Commission found that 70%, 77% in fact, Europeans are keen to travel between April and September this year, which is great news for all in the travel business. And many of those people are obviously planning to go to the usual Mediterranean hotspots of Spain, Italy, Greece, and Portugal. Respondents to the latest monitoring sentiment for domestic and inter-European travel reported the UK were amongst the most optimistic about travel, 80% saying they intended to travel. So obviously slightly ahead of the curve as ever, but that's, I guess, being an island, first thing you want to do is get off it. More than half of those surveyed said they plan to visit another European country. And according to the research, sun and beach trips are the most popular options for this coming months, whilst interest in city breaks and holidays by the water or coast still remain steady. Now, most of you will perhaps have experienced, or know somebody who experienced travel over the last couple of weeks over the Easter period. It was really the first proper opportunity that a lot of us have got to get away in the last 2 years. But the travel industry, perhaps wounded and weakened by the corona pandemic, struggled in many areas to cope. The media were very keen to make us aware that cancellations were very much at the forefront of the likes of British Airways and EasyJet, and those that were unfortunate enough to use Eurostar over the period also, I think, found the whole experience fairly challenging. So the first question I have of my three panelists today is, did you manage to get away? Were you able to get away, Jae, over the period?
No, I didn't. Well, I got to Canterbury, that's all. No, I didn't get away. I just went and saw family. I am off to Val d'Isere this weekend, so I'm yet to experience the airports. I'm going out by plane and back by Eurostar, so I'm hoping that things will have settled a bit by the time I'm doing that.
About yourself, Brett?
Yes, managed to get away to the Canaries this winter, and pleased to say that everything as it was before the pandemic, and certainly traveling now, certainly in the last sort of 4 months, it's become significantly easier with very little restrictions, unless you're not doubly jabbed.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that's highest on people's minds at the moment, is actually what is the deal now around jabbing, and what do I have to have, what don't I have to have, particularly when you've got children. Catherine, what about you? Did you manage to get away?
Yeah, so I've in the last 2 months been to Ireland, been to Lisbon, and been to Paris.
Oh, well done. That's clocking up the miles. Of course, you've enjoyed the benefit of having your passport stamped this time.
Yeah. I don't know about enjoy the benefit of having my passport stamped. And to be honest, I think that's probably the biggest hold up, is that a lot of the bottleneck is around border control. And a lot of it's really driven by Brexit, which it's kind of sad that I think that the papers and media haven't picked up on that and are, inwardly focused on the industry. And, obviously we're all challenged by COVID. We all have staff off with COVID every week, and airlines are no exception to that. But border control and the Brexit issues are something we're going to have to learn to live with. And we're going to have to see staffing levels improve there.
Yeah, and as you rightly point out, this is not unique to the travel industry. Even in the marketing world, particularly in the marketing world, finding talent, retaining talent is particularly hard. And obviously, the latest round of COVID, I think there's not many people that actually haven't had this particular brand of COVID, and that has knocked people out for a week or so. So it's that said, obviously the government haven't really helped themselves in terms of training and making sure that they have enough people equipped to be able to manage customs. So, let's moving on really from where we are at the moment. It's clear, obviously, it's going to take the travel operators a little bit of wee while to get back up to speed, but I think we can be pretty positive about what's going to happen over the summer period and into the autumn. I'm just interested to understand, Catherine, whether you've witnessed a change in the requirements of your customers. Are they different to the customers that you knew and loved prior to COVID?
Well, fortunately, a lot of them are still the same customers, which is great, particularly great to see people we were perhaps giving refunds to at the start of the pandemic coming back and now spending that refund with us on a new holiday. I think something that's definitely changed is the need to rely on, whether it's a tour operator or a travel agent. Travel sadly is a lot more complicated, as you referenced earlier, Stephen. I might be fully vaccinated, but do I need to fill in a passenger locator form? If you're flying to Peru in the next month, you've got to wear a double mask on the plane. You've got to fill in a form in Spanish that you've probably got no idea what it says, because it doesn't have an English equivalent. So there's definitely a lot more hand holding that's required. Which is good. I think if you are in the space of organizing holidays, it's made people perhaps less DIY on the internet and turned back more to relying on trusted travel expertise. But from an operator perspective, it's certainly a lot more complicated to operate holidays now. And there's a lot more investment, has to be a lot more investment in, it used to be we booked holidays, we sent people travel documentation, clients went on holidays. That's not the case now. We're now constantly touching bookings. Airlines make schedule changes. We have to work out how we're now going to get the clients from A to B. Possibly something else changes. That then has to be notified to the clients. The clients then want to get back in touch with us to talk about, I think requirements have changed, or have requirements changed, or have I got all the right paperwork? And then, of course, there's the good old-fashioned things like, actually, are most clients' passports in date? Because a lot of people have forgotten they need 6 months validity, and you now need at least 3 months validity to travel to Europe. So there's a lot of hand-holding to be done.
Are you seeing the same, Jae?
Yeah, we are. I think our customers are pretty resilient at Explore. I think we're adventure. We're sort of soft adventure. We're walking, cycling, cultural discovery, but they're pretty resilient and they've come back quite quickly. We had brilliant January. For me, the issue as a marketer is understanding what to say to people and what's the right time to say it. In the past, we always had swathes of years where we could see how bookings worked and when people were likely to book for things and which countries people were likely to book when. And that's all out of kilter now. That's all gone. We're kind of guessing a lot of the time. So at the moment, we're seeing that bookings are coming, are for the next sort of 2 or 3 months are way ahead of where they were in, for instance, 2019, which was a pretty normal booking year. They're way ahead. We're doing really, really well. But bookings in the back end of the year, kind of September, October, which I would be expecting as an adventure travel company to see lots of now, because people like booking adventure so that they can look forward to it. They do with all travel, I'm sure. But, we're used to seeing that. And those September, October bookings are not looking at all at the rate that we would expect them to be. Of course, it's the right way around. If I'm going to sell too much, I want to be selling too much of the stuff that's coming up. So I'm not complaining, but it makes me a bit nervous about who I'm sending the right thing to at the right time, because I don't have that history that I'm used to. Interestingly, we're also up for 2023. So it's like there are people sort of saying, right, and we can see online that they're looking at September, October, but I think people are literally, it's the wait and see brigade. They're literally saying, I don't know if there'll be another pandemic or war or fuel crisis or some other disaster. And therefore I just won't book anything that isn't immediate in front of me. But they seem to be also, we don't have masses of bookings in for next year, but we're well up on what we would expect at this time of year. So the big issue for me is, as a marketer, trying to make sure that I'm getting the right message to the right people at the right time. There's a lot of guesswork.
Never the case, I guess. And I think it just gets more complicated in this particular environment. So short-termism is certainly something that we are seeing right across the industry, isn't it? Brett, are you witnessing that at UTC?
Yeah, I do agree with everything that's been said so far, and I think probably just putting a general layer across it, I think is an element of nervousness. Nervousness for a number of reasons. There's been certainly the first part of this year when the government made the changes, I think certainly sort of taking away the requirement to test on the way back. I think that took the brakes off the industry, which was great to see. But I think the first 3 or 4 weeks after that period, there was definitely the pent-up demand of people wanting to go plough back into booking something. Since then, I think we're now moving more business as usual, and that's customers waiting till the 11th hour to book, as very much Jae said. What's the conditions like for travel, and I think there's the element we haven't touched on yet, which is the cost of living crisis, which is a lot of people are working out. Not all segments of travellers, but certainly the mainstream traveller. I think they're starting to look at sort of cost of living and how much money they're going to actually have to spend on their trips. And the third element, just to point out, is there's a lot of people, this year feels like the year of transition, and there's a lot of people from the last 2 years who have had significant disruption, travel credit notes, maybe 3 or 4 refunds with different airlines, different booking partners, and they're looking to sort of use those up over the course of the next 12 months. So people are looking at what they can do, but they're kind of being very cautious about when they will make that booking.
Price, I think, is absolutely integral. I mean, there's a note here from Jill. She said, is it just me or is everyone more expensive now when you get to your destination? Prices on cafes and bars on the Piste in France weeks ago, in restaurants in Italy last October, seem to have gone up enormously. Also, just booked a car for Italy for the end of May, and prices up 30% on what we paid last time. Seems like travel-related businesses are waiting or wanting to make up for the lost time. Is that true?
I would. So what we've got to bear in mind is there's also a cost of, the cost of living crisis exists in Europe. It's not just a UK phenomena. Car hire has a specific issue worldwide. All car hire companies got rid of their fleets because nobody was traveling. They didn't need a massive fleet. So there was a lot of selling off of fleets. My understanding is there's a chip shortage worldwide, which means, I've got a 17-year-old that's learning to drive. You try buying a secondhand car. The costs have gone up massively, and it's the same challenge facing the car hire operators. Particular crunch points at the moment are Italy and Canada. You cannot get a one-way car hire in Canada this summer, and yet there's still masses of hotel accommodation, which is proving to be a huge challenge for the industry. So I wish it was travel operators making huge profits this year, but sadly not. What we're seeing with airline prices going up, of course, is a lot of airlines haven't hedged. And so that the price of oil going up has literally put the price of a seat up.
And I think obviously this year is looking to be expensive. I think next year will be even more expensive. So those airlines that did hedge, some of the low cost charter airlines have hedged, and therefore they're saying this year it's not going to be too bad. But next year prices will go up by at least 10 to 12% based on this year's prices. And again, a lot of hotel contracts already contracted for this year, but again for next year haven't yet been contracted. And when they do finally get contracted, then obviously there'll be the price increases washed through there as well. So I think certainly this isn't just a little blip this year. It will be certainly for the next 2 or 3 years that we'll see an significant increase in prices for travel. And that's mainly the suppliers, not the operators.
Do you think, to a certain extent, kind of the middle classes who may have enjoyed 2 or 3 holidays a year are now having to really go back to as it was in the 60s and 70s, which you had your 2-week summer break, you might go to a couple of UK breaks during the year, and that people won't be able to afford so-called low-cost airlines are no longer low cost. Is it going to change the dynamics of the sector? Anyone?
Can I take that? I think there's a couple of things at play there. One is that people have appreciated being in the UK, just how, and almost being forced to holiday in the UK, have appreciated how lovely it is. I think there's also the environmental impact and people wanting to make sure they're travelling sustainably. We have just launched a huge programme where we put the carbon rating on every single trip that we offer. It's been a massive task, but every single trip we can tell you how much each person's carbon rating is. And I think just as people become more conscious of things like that going forward, it is possible that people will choose to do one longer trip abroad and then some other smaller ones more locally, maybe traveling by train or whatever, or just sort of it may well impact the way they travel. Certainly when we've done surveys, the younger the audience, the more they say it's likely to impact how they travel.
I mean, if anything, Stephen, I think we might see a return, particularly amongst some of the older customers, to people actually spending their holidays, the winters overseas, because it will be cheap. It will be cheaper to go to, southern Spain or the Canaries and live there for 2 months than it will be to heat your house and buy food in the UK. So there is still a lot of, despite the comments about Italy and the like, there are still a lot of tremendously good value. If I think to my trip to Portugal at the end of March, you're talking about, staying in a hotel, a decent bottle of wine is costing you 15 euros. You'd struggle to be paying that in a UK supermarket at the moment. Yeah, and it's nice and sunny, so you don't need to have a heating bill. So absolutely. I think we may well see a shift in priorities.
Yeah.
And they equally with younger, well, with not necessarily young, but people who are still working, the ability to work from anywhere, I think is likely to have an impact on people doing longer holidays and counting part of it as work time and part of it as holiday time. So I think on both counts, I mean, it's interesting that it comes at a point where we're all going to be controlled for the 90 days, isn't it? But such is life. But I agree with Catherine. I think the way people consider holidays is changing. It is changing.
Even the 90-day thing seems, I think, to be obviously a key focus for everyone at the moment because we're experiencing it for the first time. But certainly Portugal and Spain are now creating golden visas for anyone prepared to invest, buy a property in Spain. If you spend €500,000 on buying a property, they will give you a golden visa, which allows you to stay for as long as you want. And I would imagine that financial necessity, economic necessity over time, we'll see some relaxations in some of those rules. I don't, at the moment, we are where we are because of Brexit. And it's one of the things I think that most of us miss about where things were, that we could basically spend as long as we wanted within the European market. And now, of course, we're now forced to this 90-day period. That will change over time. So, I mean, in terms of what consumers are actually looking for, obviously, value, choice, those things haven't changed. And I witnessed the fact that both Katherine and Jae were talking about the fact that people need a lot more reassurance and hand-holding, but people are getting away and are having good breaks. Brett's spoken about price and how that's shifting, but what I'm really interested to understand is, do we have a new style of consumer coming through with particularly millennials and Gen Z? Are they looking for different experiences? Are they expecting different services, and are their expectations different to perhaps their parents' generation? Anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think absolutely. I think travel is much broader than just one sort of big category. I think the differences between different travelers looking for different aspects and certainly experiences is something that people are looking more and more for. And within the experience category, I think you've also got the sort of different requirements within there, so that you've got those people who are looking from more of the environmental side of things and are looking to, as Jae said, be very careful in terms of how frequently they travel and the mode of transport and how they get there. The sustainability of the place that they're staying. I know that there are a couple of travel brands now that are very similar to Jae. Be very clear in terms of what the what sort of the level of carbon offsetting needs to be in order to be able to sort of make your whole trip carbon neutral. And I think also Jae said earlier on around longer trips as well. So those people who aren't stuck with families and school holidays, looking to travel longer and potentially work abroad for 3 or 4 months, particularly since now we can all work remotely.
The other thing that we're seeing, which is a change, not necessarily with younger people, because our demographic on the whole is between sort of 45 and 65, but our customers are definitely doing the sort of carpe diem thing, and we can see that this year around 60% of our customers are traveling solo. So 60% of our bookings are set for solo travelers, which is a significant increase. We've always been quite good for people booking solo onto our small group adventures, but to have 60% of the bookings as solo is really high. And I think it's people just saying, stuff it, I want to cycle around Cuba. I am no longer going to wait and see if a friend or my other half or someone wants to do it with me, or I've always wanted to walk along the Amalfi Coast and do that walk of the gods and eat that food, and I'm just going to book it. I'm just going to do it. It's a real sort of carpe diem piece that people are doing, and I guess that probably also sits quite comfortably with people booking in slightly shorter lead times, because they're not having to negotiate with other people for leave and all those kind of things. They just decide they can do it and go for it.
I'd love to see some research on that, Jae, because I imagine also a large portion of those people are the ones that didn't make through their relationships in lockdown 1 and 2, are now free to go and do what they want. It'd be fascinating to see that. In fact, actually, Andrew Cowan asked a question earlier on, which is, so it seems that everyone is booking last minute, even trips of a lifetime. Ventures are being booked, 3 months out, whereas in the past it might be an 18-month cycle where people basically consider what they want to do before they actually make that booking. So,
and the things we can see on the website is that people are still doing the researching and the dreaming.
Yeah,
I think they're just not put, and they used to say, right, I want it in my diary because I want something to look forward to. I suspect they're still kind of penciling in their diary. They're just not booking it for fear of, kind of the other random stuff that might happen between now and then. People just haven't quite got that confidence. And there definitely is, I saw a message here about people looking for flexibility and guarantees and things. Not specifically COVID guarantees, but people still definitely ask us about flexibility. What if? People want to know what if, much more than they used to in the past.
Lauren's asked a question here about solo bookings. I mean, are tour operators can start to adjust their pricing to accommodate single travel?
Yeah, I saw that about the single occupancy rates. Yeah, it's something we've been talking about, and we did do a promotion because we could see we were just sort of getting on the back of a trend. We could see it was trending anyway. So we did do a promotion around reducing right down either by half or completely removing single occupancy supplements for a 2-week campaign, and it was more successful than any similar 4-week campaign we'd ever run before. Just in those 2 weeks, it obviously just touched what people were thinking at the time, and they went for it.
I think, Stephen, the other thing that's changing booking habits at the moment is that a lot of really top experiences are sold out for this year. So if you think, oh, I'd like to go, here in the US in July, or I'd like to go and stay in, luxury Australia lodges in December, they're probably already sold out, which I think is pushing people either into that, I've got to therefore do it in the next 3 months, because there probably are pockets of availability, or booking early for 23, because we're even starting to see some, again, some of the top high-end experiences are certain dates are already sold out for 23. Which is difficult because, a client thinks, oh, I want to go in 23, I'm celebrating a 40th wedding anniversary, I want to go over my 40th wedding anniversary. You're having to say to them, well, if you want to stay in this particular safari lodge, you're going to have to move your dates or stay somewhere else. And that's not something we've really had to do with people booking a year in advance before. Normally, if you're booking a year in advance, you get your pick of where you want to stay.
Yes, and I think that's probably still people's expectations, isn't it? I mean, we've always had a market in the UK where people book more in advance than some of their European counterparts. The Spanish typically book a couple of weeks before, leave it right to the last moment. So it's going to adapt, I guess, the way in which we think about holidays and that dreaming phase. Obviously, that has implications for the marketing that you were talking about, Jae, earlier on. Is when do you serve those messages? When do you get engagement? The market is so segmented now, and attitudinally too. It's changed. We have people who are prepared to take risk, book in advance, hope for the best, and we've got others that, as you rightly say, won't book to the very last moment. They're fearful there'll be another lockdown or whatever. So, talking lockdowns, I mean, is there any anticipation in the industry that there could be further lockdowns, or are we basically, now believing that actually everything is fine as we go forward, and we don't have to worry about potential further threats in that area?
I don't want to predict. Does anyone want to predict?
We're probably too busy dealing with other problems, Stephen. It feels like lockdown is a problem we've dealt with. Now we're dealing with oil crises, wars. You almost think the next crisis might not well be a lockdown. My commercial director likes to joke with me, we haven't had a plague of locusts for about 200 years. So that's probably next on the list.
We're probably due an ash cloud, aren't we, about now?
Yeah.
We've suffered those in the past. But no, listen, I think it's markedly resilient industry. And I think that's one of the things that actually the travel industry should be praised for, is actually resilience, their ability to adapt, their ability to actually customer centric and think about actually the needs and requirements of their customers and adapt their products accordingly. That's been very much, I think, at the front of what's happened. And a lot of, obviously, operators are now doing very well in this marketplace. It's also fair to say that we lost a lot of operators, both airlines, not a huge number, but certainly a lot of high street operators were forced to close. We've lost a lot of people from the industry. Do you see that coming back again, or do you feel that we are now much more of a virtual industry, much more online and less on the high street? Because it seems to be counterintuitive to the fact you're having to give lots more advice and help, but just at the point where there are fewer high street operators.
I don't think that means there's less operators and agents, though, because if you look at it, there's been a phenomenal growth in home workers, which was probably a trend that was already underway. But certainly as an operator, gone are the days where you could send, 20 brochures to a branch, because that's probably now 20 home workers that are all working in different locations who don't want to receive a brochure, both for sustainable reasons and for the fact they don't want a pile of brochures sitting in their house. So it definitely is changing how we need to work with the agency community. But personally, I think the the role of the travel advisor is alive and well. It's just, it's not in a high street shop anymore. And there's many benefits of that. You know, you look at people and people are having a Zoom, you know, maybe their partner are in different places. Their partner's in the office, they're at home. They're having a Zoom with a travel advisor who's maybe based in the north of England or the west of England, but are having a really great interactive experience where they're looking at videos of where they might go to. They're getting great help, great advice. They're maybe even dialing in somebody in destination to, you know, I've seen, we've had examples of where we've had hoteliers actually literally live with a phone walking around different types of hotel suites while the client decides which one they want to stay in. It's a world away from a 120-page brochure in terms of the experience the client can get, for the better, in my view.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great demonstration of how we've adapted through COVID and actually delivering a better customer experience as a result. You know, the ability to be able to walk around and actually talk to an expert in resort, that's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And to the point where you can actually choose the room you ideally want. That works really, really well. There is, however, I think there's a trust issue. I think a lot of brands have been damaged because of poor experience during COVID, with airlines initially, you know, refusing or going very slow on actually getting monies repatriated to consumers, and obviously everything becoming voucher based. We've seen some horror stories, and there's one here in the chat box of somebody who lost £5,000 because the travel agent sent on a goose chase, get a refund. And equally, we've heard fantastic stories where brands have gone above and beyond. That said, I think, you know, travel is a category that was always, I think, struggled with trust, because we've seen so many businesses go bust over the years. ABTA and obviously IATA and others, etc., obviously gives that reassurance when it comes to booking airline tickets or buying packages. But in general, are people navigating to the brands that they know and they love best, or are we seeing people prepared to take risk and prepared to try new brands?
I think me and my son is in the process of taking a podo to the small claims court for a flight he hasn't managed to get back from 2020 as well. So I definitely think there's a trust thing going on. Interestingly, Explore, I wasn't here at the time, but were incredibly generous in what they gave back to people. And whilst I think that's had a very good impact for those individuals affected, I'm not convinced it's had as much of a brand glow as we would all like to imagine. I think the reality is that, you know, if operators are ABTA, you know, recognised, all those and look like they know what they're doing, you know, so Andrew gives a really good example of Much Better Adventures, which is, you know, relatively small startup, but they're smashing it because they know exactly what they're doing. They look like experts. They're doing really, really well, and I think people are prepared to go with other operators and new, you know, things that look new to them they haven't had experience of before, if they look strong and can see some sort of reassurance in there. I don't think it does mean that people are only booking with operators who did the right thing during the start of the COVID crisis.
And Stephen, it's also important to remember, if you book on a credit card under UK credit law, if you don't receive the services you've booked for, you can claim back against the credit card company. And you know, that's the ultimate protection, you know, never mind whether an agent has ABTA, whether a tour operator is ATOL or whatever. So I think the key thing for consumers is, as long as if you are booking with somebody new or a startup or whatever, just put it on a credit card, because you'll always be able to get your money back.
Yeah, and also that's what holiday insurance is also for, isn't it? You know, to give you that second level of protection. I think people forget too, if you're just booking a hotel only package, or sorry, no package, just a hotel, then you wouldn't be covered by ATOL. You wouldn't be covered by the other insurance policies. You would be covered.
Well, you would be covered by ABTA if there's more than one element to the booking,
yeah, and
you're with an ABTA agent. So,
right. I mean, if we sing divergence, then we've got basically the mass market, perhaps going online, buying direct, buying through booking.com, etc., etc., and then the more specialist area of the business wants that kind of unique experience, wants authenticity, wants expertise, going to the likes of Explore and to Wexas. Where does UTC sit in all of this?
Well, UTC very much sees itself as a broad church. We're here to serve value as a value proposition for anybody looking to travel and travel frequently, whether or not that's here in the UK for work or for pleasure, or for overseas trips. We are an online business, but we have a team of call centre operators here in the UK to handle inquiries that come in and to be able to offer guidance and advice and reassurance. But we're here to sort of offer a different perspective on travel and trying to offer value through a subscription-based approach. So we charge a small annual fee, which is £99 a year, and that enables our members to get access to travel at trade prices, which means that we don't mark up or charge a commission for our services. And it's new. It's looking at other sort of business models across entertainment and lifestyle that has ventured into the subscription world, and hopefully over the next 5 years, as prices increase, we'll be able to offer our members a very sort of keen price point for their travel. And
what sort of buyers are you getting? I mean, is it in terms of the sort of socio-demographic of the individuals that are joining the membership?
I mean, we're seeing it, as I said before, a broad church. We're not particularly, I don't think, suitable for luxury lovers who want hand-holding every step of the way, that want the prestige of booking with a known tour operator. And neither are we probably suitable for people who only ever want to travel maybe for 1 or 2 trips in the UK a year. They're probably not going to see the value on their membership. But anybody that travels frequently, sort of the I call sort of the mass affluent audience, which is around 7.8 million people in the UK, that we've identified as being suitable for what we offer.
Thank you for that. It gives me insights of where you all sit within the marketplace. I'm going to open up to questions now. In the last 5 minutes, we're aiming to finish these calls now in 45 minutes, because everyone is so busy. Also, but before I go to any other questions, I'm very interested to understand where the hotspots, where are people booking now? What's new? What's exciting? If you were making recommendations to the people on this call, where would you be saying you should be going this year? Let's start with Katherine.
There's where I think you should be going. There's where we can actually book you to. I mean, Africa is a great place to go to this year, because I think it suffered with, people thinking Omicron came from Africa. A lot of African countries were on the red list for a long time. So that has really damaged their forward bookings. So there's lots of good availability. If you want to look at safari, you want to look at adventure, now is definitely a good year to travel to Africa, would be my recommendation.
What about yourself, Jae?
Yeah, I, like Katherine, I was about to say Africa. It's a really good place to go this year, and we've still got quite a lot of availability. We're out of availability for most of the kind of standard European countries, just about, for the next few months. You need to be looking into the back end of the year to get anything in those, although it does mean that people are looking a bit at a sort of slightly more interesting bits of Europe. I think there's a lot of people looking at maps, working out how far east various countries are in order to feel confident booking them within Europe. But yeah, I agree. I think Africa is looking really good. And then kind of interesting bit, Istria and Croatia is beautiful. Some really lovely kind of interesting bits of countries. I think the thing to do is to think of the country that you would visit and then look at the next one over.
That's a good tip.
Well, on that basis, I'll go for Turkey. So a lot of people think of Greece as the #1 destination for summer holidays. But actually just go a couple of 100 miles further east and you've got a lovely collection of different holiday types that you can do to Turkey. And the airlines have put significant more capacity into Turkey year and next year. And the Turkish lira is offering exceptional good value for money. So I think something like 70% more value for the lira than it was pre-pandemic. So I think your 3-course meals will take you a long way when you go there if you're looking for good value.
I'm about to book a women's holiday to Turkey for February next year. February next year, I'm taking all my female friends. We're all going on a week away just for women in Turkey. Exactly that.
Okay, and then same question in reverse. Where not to go this year, apart from this? Well, actually,
don't turn people off travel. Go anywhere you want to go.
I mean,
it's lovely.
Stephen, this is definitely the year not to hire a car.
yes, yeah, I think that's
If you want to keep your holiday at a sensible price, you want to be not hiring a car this year. So that definitely is having an impact on driving holidays.
Yeah, Eurotunnel must be doing very well at your old company. I imagine their forward orders must be very strong at the moment, Jae.
They're doing really well, partly because of P&O as well. But yeah, also there's a car hire. It's a perfect storm for Eurotunnel.
Well, maybe all travel is an adventure, and always has been. You know, we just have to be a bit more adventurous. I think we've been very fortunate the last 10, 15 years with the development of or 30 years now with the development of low-cost airlines, and travel has become a very easy, accessible thing to do. And consumers are needing to adapt slightly to the fact that actually it's a little bit more difficult than it was. It's still highly valued, and it's much better than buying more stuff, which is, I think, the way we started this conversation, which is stuff versus experiences. And you know, we don't think about the stuff on our deathbed. We think about the experiences, the places we've been, people we've met, the things that we've done, and that's what makes us all adventurers at heart. And I'd really like to kind of end on that note by just saying, look, you know, thank you for giving us your time this morning. I know how busy the three of you are. We're all travellers. We all like to travel. All the people on this call are fortunate to be able to travel more frequently than once a year, and we look forward to doing more of it as we move forward. And we know where to come. So for those that are adventurous types, you know where to go, explore. For those that are looking for fantastic quality, access to luxurious holidays as well as 4-star holidays and access to the Scandinavian market and elsewhere, please follow Katherine and follow up with Wexas and their group of companies there. And for those that are looking to basically join a travel organisation and a travel club and are looking to travel frequently, then give Brett a call. We'll put all their details on the follow-up, and there will be an email going out with today's video. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. As I said, I promised to finish at 11:45, and I think we'll just about keep to that. So have a great day and travel well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.